Si j'ai bien calculé mon coût, normalement on est en stream. J'attends juste d'être sûr que ce soit OP et que le flux soit bien envoyé. Ok, le flux est envoyé. Ok. Bon. Normalement, c'est partagé sur les réseaux. Machin. Totalement inattendu leur histoire. Ça n'a juste pas de sens. Bref. Ok. Normalement, effectivement, nous sommes bien en stream. Bien le bonjour ou bien le bonsoir à ceux qui sont présents. J'espère que vous allez tous très bien. On se retrouve du coup aujourd'hui sur la chaîne de Jeux vidéo magazine et je pense surtout aux personnes qui vont mater ça en rediffusion parce que je vous avoue qu'on est sur une horaire en particulier qui est un peu complicado par rapport au match de l'équipe de France. Xbox vient de balancer une vidéo d'1 heure, de 59 minutes pour être précis, qui fait état de différents, on va dire, détails, rencontres, précisions, avec des créateurs, globalement, autour de jeux qui ont été balancés lors du Xbox Game Showcase. Pendant près d'1 heure, on a des personnes, du coup, qui vont parler de Doom the Dark Ages, de Gears of War ID, d'Assassin's Creed Shadows, de Black Ops 6, de Avowed, de Age of Mythology, bref, d'accord. Ok, c'est totalement inattendu, j'ai envie de dire. Bref, ce que je vous propose, c'est qu'on mate ça ensemble. Salut à ceux qui sont présents dans le chat, salut à Aren, salut à SQ Wen31. Je vous propose qu'on mate ça ensemble directement, en fait, qu'on perde pas plus de temps, et qu'on puisse voir un peu ce que Microsoft a à nous partager. Est-ce qu'on aura de nouveaux détails Oula. Oula. De nouveaux détails. Ta gueule. Est-ce qu'on aura des détails supplémentaires? Seul la vidéo saura répondre à ces questions. J'ai regardé un petit peu, il n'y a pas de nouveau gameplay. Par contre, il y a les créateurs qui parlent en détail de leur production, etc. Et je trouve ça assez fou. Bref, c'est parti, on commence la conf, pas plus de temps, let's go. C'est sous-titré par contre. Ok.
Welcome, y'all. It is great to see y'all. We are going to be doing some wonderful panels. This is going to be our meet the Creator section. And I got 3 amazing panels that are going to be happening back to back to back to back. So don't go nowhere. So first, we got the DNA of a franchise. I'm going to be talking to some of the folks from Gears of War and Black Ops 6. All right. Then we got building an engaging world, which is going to have the folks from Avowed and Age of Mythology retold. And then lastly, but certainly not leastly, I got franchise through gameplay and technology with the creators of Doom and Assassin's Creed. So you know what? I'm just going to get into it because you don't want to hear me talk. I got this. So coming to the stage right now, I got some friends from the Coalition, Matt Searcy, creative director, and Nicole Fawcett, brand director, and from Treyarch, the associate design director on Zombies, Kevin Drew. Come on to the stage. Welcome on with me.
Donc, cette conférence va commencer par Doom, Gears et Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, de Coalition et Treyarch.
Welcome, baby.
Ah bah.
Y'all feel good after them doggone
Je mets juste le chat ici.
Deep dive. I love it. I love it. Please have a seat. Have a seat. Have a seat. So, all right. Let's just. This is a thing that's happening.
In this living room.
Salut aux arrivants. J'espère que vous allez bien. Fatigué ou comme d'hab.
Sorry, I'm getting. Let me.
We're here.
We're coming down. Yeah. First and foremost, man, I want to thank y'all for being here. It's nothing like that day when you get to show everybody where you're working on the thing. I'm going to just get right into the questions because I got a lot of them and not a lot of time to do it. Now, both of these games, both in Gears of War E-Day and in Black Ops 6, we are dealing with very specific time periods and new chapters in games that have been around for a while. There's a lot of history, a lot of legacy, a lot of love. And
Salut aux arrivants. Je sais que le match commence bientôt, mais...
How do you balance bringing in a lot of that old, a lot of that history, a lot of the stuff that people love with the new chapters in the thing? All things considered, they just did the direct. I'm gonna kick.
Oh yeah,
right?
Go for it. You're gonna start with me.
Yeah, this one's for you, my friend. How do you balance the old and the new? Come on, going from Black Ops 2 to 6? Tell me what was going through the head.
I think there's different answers for each part of the game, right? We have campaign, we have multiplayer, and we have zombies. And I could speak for zombies when I say it's a mode that actually started as an Easter egg back in...
Je précise, ça va totalement déborder sur le match, les gars. Il y a 6 jeux présentés, voire 7. Ça dure 1 heure. Je rate la première mi-temps.
So like every time we would make a new zombies game, we would just try new things that we thought was cool. right? But over the years, by Black Ops 3, certain things we realize are very important, and we kind of established the DNA of zombies. It's a lot of different like perks and pack-a-punch and really cool maps and hidden quests and all sorts of things. And we realized those certain things are very kind of sacred, and we need to like keep those and iterate on them and make them better, but then always pushing ourselves to do new things, because that's like at the heart of this mode. It's almost like counterculture to COD, where it's like we get to put things in that you would never see in or think that would be in Call of Duty.
Stuff you're just not expecting.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right, on the E-Day side, man, you gotta tell me,
Gears of War.
with that very specific time period. How are you balancing going back that far in the timeline of the series, but also like bringing that that interesting and
yeah. Well, I guess we can tell a little bit of a story about how we got there, and it has like new and obviously reflection of the old in it. Basically, you know, when we finished Gears 5, we actually shipped a bunch of stuff. We shipped tactics, Hive Busters, New Game Plus, a bunch of things. And when we got to the end of it, we were like in a pandemic, just like everybody else was.
Ça allait vite, mais en gros, ils disaient qu'après Gears 5, ils ont fait Hive Buster, ils ont fait Gears Tactics, etc. Il y a eu la pandémie, et ils sont passés à Unreal Engine 5 du coup.
All new technology, you know, new engine, all sorts of new opportunities. We were building a bunch of stuff new. So we were able to take all of our sort of ambitions about the new stuff, and then basically at the same time we were reflecting on like how we talked about Gears, how the fans talked about Gears, and finding that heart.
Yeah, we heard a lot of words that our fans were using, like brotherhood, brutality, you know, the idea of like sadness, this kind of melancholic world, and then obviously the overtop spectacle of Gears. And we were kind of learning about ourselves through our fans, and you know, deciding that, you know, for us, it's about staying true to who we are at the core, the DNA, the things that never change. But we can do new things. We can introduce new technologies and kind of push the story forward. So.
You actually mentioned some of the new tech with Unreal 5. Like, how has changing which tech stack you're working on impacted some of the things that you can do and some of the feedback that gives the players?
J'imagine que ça a dû être plus simple sur certains éléments.
Without getting into the details too much, you know, one of the cool things about our studio is we work so closely and you know, with Epic and Unreal, and we really try to push stuff. So we're always looking for like everywhere. Like the real answer is everywhere. Like graphical fidelity, you know, our trailer is built-in engine, like it looks f***ing awesome. I hope you all thought it looked f***ing awesome. You know, but it also goes like everything from how we approach like animation tools and fidelity to just the way the world is going to look and feel, but also like cinematic storytelling techniques. So there's a lot of technical improvements you get to lean into, at the same time pushing sort of creativity and storytelling and vibe and feel and I mean, ultimately, it all came together, and we looked at it and said, E-Day was the perfect place to take that vibe, our ambitions, the story, the stuff the fans, and us, the words that we were all using about Gears, and try to package it all together. It just felt right, so we went for it. Yeah.
Leaning in a lot of that brotherhood theme, and actually you can kind of look at some of that coming through in COD as well. Speaking thereof, like we got a really good look at how you guys are actively developing the game. How is your tech?
Je précise pour ceux qui viennent d'arriver, il n'y a pas de nouvelles annonces, c'est pour ça que dans le titre j'ai mis le nom des jeux qui seront précisés dans ce panel, enfin dans ces panels du coup.
I think that's the highlight, the Omni movement. You all saw it today. It's like revolutionary in how you play the game. It just fundamentally changes how you move, and it kind of removes this artificial construct of like, you know, in real life, you can sprint backwards. You can sprint to the side. Like professional athletes do this all the time. So once we kind of ungated that or realized we could do that and we made this massive endeavor, it's changed everything, right? Like how you play multiplayer is different. How you play zombies is going to be different. Like the ability to, you know, sprint backwards while you've got a horde of zombies.
Assassin's Creed Shadows est dans cette conf parce que je suppose qu'ils ont un partenariat avec Xbox, ils ont un deal. De toute façon, la première image de gameplay de Shadows, c'était à la conf Xbox. Voilà. Par contre, ce que je note comme information, je sais pas si ça a été dit avant, c'est que Coalition, ils sont en relation très fréquente avec Epic Games pour développer Gears of War ID.
But how do you take those audiences into consideration? For a lot of folks, like they've been looking for these installments for a minute. I know people have been checking for Gears for a minute, and people have been looking for the new COD for a minute. How do you deal with a lot of that fan expectancy that hey, you know what your people are kind of hoping for. How do we address that, especially when coming into a new chapter?
Yeah, well, we care a lot about people's emotional connections to the fans, to the characters in the game. We know people get Gears tattoos. I'm sure there's some guys in here that maybe have some Crimson Omen tattoos or other Gears of War tattoos. It's a big deal, and the connection that they've made playing the games is just something that we don't take for granted. So bringing back Marcus and Dom and, you know, making sure that we're really respecting their memories that they've made, whether it's just playing the game or, you know, the friends that they've made along the way and co-op campaign. That's just kind of what we care about as a team, and it's what we talk about all the time, and we just don't take that lightly as stewards of the franchise.
Of course. Anything we want to toss on that,
I think that's it. Like, it's about trying to deliver something new and also what you know drew people to the franchise at the same time. I think it's very similar for a lot of the stuff I saw in the Blops Direct, you know.
When you were saying earlier about
Ils ont toujours été ensemble sur les Gears.
There was challenges with that. In the last game we made, we had to make concessions, and you know there were certain things that we wanted to bring to zombies that we couldn't, and now this has been the opportunity here to fully realize and make.
Parce qu'effectivement, c'est le seul jeu qui est éditeur tiers en réalité, Shadows, dans les panels. Parce qu'avant... Non, pour tout le reste, c'est des jeux... Enfin, c'est éditeur tiers aussi, Call of, mais c'est un studio first party.
And just the moment-to-moment gameplay, which now you have these emergent moments, and when you have the characters actually have personality and interact with each other, that's huge, right? Yeah. For both of them.
Yeah, that's an interesting connection between like zombies and Gears, is that you're inhabiting characters and also playing with your friends and going on these like shared journeys and stories that sort of involve you and the people in the game. Is pretty cool.
It's like when you see how they react, like you might bond closer to this character more than that character based on their reactions, which is really cool.
I'm not gonna lie, when Marcus looked like he was gonna fall over, I'm like, no, I'm my boy. And then it came down to brotherhood. Yeah, that's
you didn't really think he was gonna fall in that hole, did you?
I'm not. I was on pins and needles, okay? Just let me have this, all right? Let me have this. All right.
Xbox communique beaucoup, en fait. Et surtout, en fait, ce panel-là, c'est un peu l'équivalent d'un extended, quoi. Mais ils ont déjà fait plusieurs focus, quoi.
It's always nice to remember that the people making these things are often fans. A lot of them are like, I'm excited for this game too. I'm curious if there are any like personal touches that y'all got for me personally. What are some of the things that your folks did, their signatures that they put on the game? If you can share.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable. You've got hundreds of people that are working there because they're passionate about their craft, they're passionate about the franchise they're working on, they're building relationships in the studio, and they're bringing things to it. But without getting like into specifics, I think for us, especially in Gears, we found that
de 11 minutes.
Brotherhood and burden, loyalty, trust, things that we use in our story, actually, they're all things we all experience all the time. So as we've been building out the story of E-Day and building out the game, you hear all these sort of references to people in our studio's lives, things they've gone through. They all end up in there. They all end up in the stories and the characters, which is pretty special. Like, it's not like, oh, that was my, I put my dog's name in. It was more like, actually, there's significant things in our world that come from the people who made the game. Yeah.
See, that I love stuff like that. That makes the game feel like something that you labor on, something that you are part of.
Absolutely.
Not just something that you're just making just to make. I know some personal touches in Black Ops. And we also got like a look at some of them in the deep dive. I want to know specifically in Zombies, are there some personal touches that y'all put in that you're just like, this is for the fans?
Yeah, so I mean, I've worked on every Black Ops game, so I have a lot of very specific examples over the year. Like, if you're working on the game, you're...
Je précise que c'est pas parce que les législatives, le premier tour, c'est ce week-end, que c'est devenu un lieu politique ou de militantisme ici. Je précise. Tout message de ce type-là, d'un bord ou d'un autre, sera supprimé, en fait. C'est un lieu apolitique, c'est pas le sujet. Si c'était une chaîne politique, on en aurait parlé depuis longtemps. Voilà.
He was like this one-line character, but he was just hilarious to all of us. So I started to name him there, and then I moved to another campaign level and another one, and soon enough there was like 8 levels with Crosby in it, and he had a full character arc.
That means Crosby is the Carmine of Black Ops.
Black Ops. Yeah.
And he has his own wiki page. But
Nice.
when he got to zombies, it was sometimes our personal touches are accidental. When we were working on Black Ops 2, we were like a new team working on it, and we hadn't quite caught up with all of the rules yet, and so when we were determining the eye color for Mob of the Dead, a producer got asked like what color to make them, and he's just like, I don't know, red. And then with Q2, like we released the trailer, and the community is like, what is this third faction? What do the red eyes mean? And we're like, oh, okay. That was like the way
accident.
Intentional.
Yes. Yeah, totally. It worked out. But I think in recent years, not I've been directing the gameplay and the design systems, it's really about I want to bring zombies to more people.
Alors par contre, pour l'information, des jeux des anciens Call of Duty qui débarquent dans le Game Pass, il n'y a pas eu de contrat là-dessus. Hein. Ça n'a pas été dit. Hein. En tout cas, de ce que je me souviens des documents de la FTC, ils n'ont jamais dit qu'ils allaient jamais mettre les jeux dans le Game Pass. C'était par rapport à l'exclusivité en soi. En tout cas, j'ai pas vu de ligne là-dessus, j'ai pas vu de document là-dessus. Hein. Ça n'a pas été interdit. C'est d'ailleurs pour ça que tout le monde l'appelle de ses voeux, parce que c'est c'est effectivement le seul truc qui est exclusif. Et je précise également que s'ils foutent Black Ops 6 Day One dans le Game Pass, qui est le cas, pour les anciens, c'est pas très compliqué en soi. Hein. Je sais pas ce qui bloque actuellement, c'est vrai que c'est une question qui se pose. Peut-être qu'ils vont l'annoncer à la Gamescom, c'est possible. Mais pour l'instant, voilà.
Especially because it's such a big moment in the franchise.
Yeah.
And to go back to E-Day, there's got to be a significance to that, especially when you could look at the future, but picking
Quand est
that
marqué
very
jour
specific
J,
date.
c'est
What was
E-Day.
going
Hein.
through the creation team mind when we went in that general direction?
Pourquoi être retourné
Yeah,
à
well, E-Day is
l'idée?
an origin story.
Moi, je suis content
and
qu'ils
it's the
retournent
origins of so
au
many
jour de
things in our
l'émergence. Hein.
franchise. It's obviously the day that the locusts emerged from the ground and their world kind of turned upside down, and you know, the original games kind of take place 14 years after the world has already spent a lot of time in this kind of collapsed, what we call
Les
destroyed,
Knight Riders, je ne
but
savais
beautiful
même pas non
state.
plus.
But E-Day
J'allais regarder le match, et là je vois ça, je fais what?
Bond in the franchise with Marcus and Dom. When you first meet Marcus and Dom in the game, they're not going to be the characters you know from the original trilogy. They're returning veterans from a human war called the Pendulum Wars. You know, it's peacetime, a very short-lived peace on the planet of Sarah. It's armistice. People are looking forward to like a new hopeful future. And they've also experienced some loss and grief between them. So Dom's brother, Carlos, has passed away in the Pendulum Wars, and he was Marcus's best friend. So the bond that you know of Marcus and Dom as these like rock solid brothers to the end, all that sort of thing, they're not quite there yet. And so I know. So there's like a bit of a vulnerability as they, you know, kind of navigate that grief, that
Ça
gap
va être
in their
hyper
life,
intéressant, je trouve.
while facing everything that's going on while this kind of world is crumbling.
Alors peut-être que ma
around them.
comparaison va être un peu bizarre, mais je vois un peu ce E-Day comme un God of War 2018 face à la précédente trilogie. Vous voyez ce que je veux dire? Je trouve que cet événement-là, qu'on ait un Marcus et un Dom qui construisent leur relation, qui évoluent, que ce soit les fondements même de l'ADN de Gears, je trouve ça vachement cool. Et effectivement, ça peut être l'occasion pour plein de gens qui n'ont jamais joué à Gears of War de commencer par celui-ci.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe you can't speak to that from the zombie side, but if you can, give me
I
that.
could give a light touch.
Give me a
just,
light
like,
touch.
That's part of our DNA, right? Like the Black Ops series goes into very historical, memorable beats and kind of gives you this version that could have existed where there's a deeper story there. There's a lot of espionage and betrayal and shadowy ops. And in this version, right, like this idea of you becoming an enemy of the state, like the actual government is betraying you because they're doing some bad things and you want to fix it. So
Non, il y aura pas Fable parce que j'ai survolé la conférence et il y a Doom, Assassin's Creed, Gears, Black Ops 6, Avowed, Age of Mythology. Il n'y a pas de Fable encore. Et je les trouve vachement silencieux, c'est un peu frustrant.
it's going to be, I think, a lot of fun. But on the zombie side, we left you like on a huge cliffhanger. So basically, Cold War was building up a lot of beats.
Oui, ça c'est la précision pour ceux qui n'ont pas fait Cold War, en gros.
Kind of just did a huge 180.
Et ça, et pour le coup, ce Call of, sur le plan de la campagne, parce que pour le multi, je peux faire le mec, je me fais dérouiller en 3 minutes. Je suis pas non plus ultra chaud en multi, mais la campagne a l'air vraiment cool. J'espère que ce sera stylé. Fable, c'est prévu pour 2025, hein, pour préciser.
Push-ups and just ready for revenge.
Ready to roll. All right, look, the voices in my head are telling me that we don't have a whole bunch more time.
Okay.
I want to know what you got final thoughts to leave the people with before they get a chance to do their own research and digging. Give me something. Come on.
I mean, we're stoked to be back. Like,
il aime bien.
Yes. We're so excited to be here.
Il aime bien dire des gros mots.
You know, Nicole and I are here representing an amazing team back at the coalition.
Yeah.
I feel really privileged to be here for, speaking for them, but also, always we're here for the fans as well. Gears is one big family, and we're excited to bring in a new chapter to it, and can't wait to, for the day when we all get our hands on it.
Just let me get my Lancer. Let me get my Lancer. And on the Treyarch side of the house, baby, what you got? What we leaving the people with?
I think the same thing, where it's like I've been waiting like literally years to just say round-based zombies is going to be a Black Ops 6.
Yes.
And I think we've set out to make the best version of it. So I think the entire team's very passionate about the mode, and we're bringing things back from the past, like gobblegums, and among other things, and I think we're going to really make something special here, and we hope.
C'est des informations et c'est surtout des ressentis de développeurs.
Here, can we give our panelists one more round of applause, please? All right. Thank y'all.
Pour ceux qui veulent nous quitter, allez voir le match. Bon match à tous, ne me spoilez pas le score s'il vous plaît. Enfin, quoique aussi, faites des updates. Et le second panel va s'enchaîner là tout de suite. Je crois que c'est Avowed.
Next panel is one that I'm super excited about because this one's going to be a bit of a shift in where we're going game-wise, but this will be fun. Because for me, it's all about the world. It's all about the immersion. Where are you putting me and what can I do when I get there, right? And I got 2 games that world setting is going to be their absolute jam. So please help me welcome from Obsidian, Carrie Patel, and from World's Edge, Ernest Ewan, Senior Director over of Production. Please, come on in.
Donc là, c'est pour Avowed et Age of Mythology. Voilà. Si jamais vous voulez voir le match, allez-y.
Good to see y'all.
Ou alors tu peux mater le match et la conférence aussi. Parfait.
Talk about both of these, a little bit of a shift between the game genres, but being able to be in those immersive experiences, y'all know that's much. We've talked at length about this thing. So I am going to go ahead and jump into the questions, mostly because I'm excited to hear about both of these. So both of the Age of Mythology Retold and Avowed are very different games as far as like style and genre and all that. But both of them are kind of reframing how a player experiences an already familiar world, especially in the case of like bringing back something that people were asking for a while. And then in general, like dealing with the Pillars of Eternity world, and these are already familiar settings. How do you embrace approaching like new games, even though you already have some things that are already in play?
Well, thanks. So we really think about, at Obsidian, we're all about role-playing games. And so a big part of the experience for us is understanding, what's the player-shaped hole that we leave in the middle of the world. And so for Pillars of Eternity, there's this balance between stuff that is fantastical, but then also very grounded in a political sense. And so you have these conflicts that are between nations, but also kind of behind the scenes about, the gods and metaphysics and the nature of souls. And so, we want to preserve that storytelling and then give the player, the chance to define who they are in the world. And so what we wanted to do with Avowed was create an experience that is welcoming for players who maybe aren't familiar with, didn't grow up with the Infinity Engine.
À la base, ça ne me chauffait pas du tout le jeu, je vous le dis direct. À la base, j'étais pas chaud. Là, je suis très très curieux. Surtout encore plus depuis qu'ils ont annoncé qu'il y avait une vue 3e personne. Et là, je suis en mode, wow. Why not?
Familiar world, but also the new and improved. I know you mentioned having the game.
Par contre, les jeux de mythologie, c'est pas du tout mon truc. Je suis pas, mais je comprends la hype.
We pride ourselves in basically have a connection with the community. We try to listen to what the awesome community have to say, give us feedback, and Honestly, the last few years as we were developing the Age of Empires Definitive Editions, Age of Empires 4, every time we make any big announcement, some fans are like in there saying like, when are we going to get Age of Mythology? So like, it keeps like, we want to give them this, and it was great that during our 25th anniversary event, we get the chance to tell the world that yes, we are working on Age of Mythology Retold. So yep, the original game is 2002. So it is a long time ago.
A minute.
So, and it is crazy how long the history of this franchise has been. And yep, bring back for the fans, lots of fun stuff.
Oh, I love it. Oh, for the me and the player shape, that's a Ron shape hole. You just
there you go.
It's a Ron shape hole. Look, the worlds that y'all have created are massive, and I know a lot of this godlike powers, God powers, actual God powers. And for me, the power fantasy is just gonna be the absolute jam. This is what I do when I get off of work and emails don't feel very powerful. I'm gonna go play the power fantasy here. What's top of mind when you shape those power fantasies, especially when we're coming from? I'm gonna actually start on the mythology side of this. When you're looking at like actually.
D'ailleurs, Momo, à l'époque, il y avait des leaks par rapport à des nouvelles manettes Xbox. Elles vont sortir bientôt, je demande. Je n'ai vu aucun élément sur le sujet et après on vous en parlera quand ce sera officiel. Hein, pour le coup, c'est comme la conf PlayStation. Si on a une, on sait pas pour l'instant, on sait pas. Dès qu'il y aura quelque chose d'officiel, je vous le dis. Vous connaissez la réactivité de la chaîne, vous savez que vous serez au courant. Si on dit rien, c'est que c'est pas officiel et que ça vaut pas le coup d'en parler en fait.
Quakes, like tornadoes. It's just cool to actually see all the physics and like things blowing up and like meteors strike, literally things blowing up. So the thing that we approach it is one of the key thing that we noticed in the original game. Most of these god powers, you can actually only use it once. And from the data we have seen as people play the game, what they do is they just hold on to it. Like, okay, I'll use it at the exact right moment. And then the game basically ended, they just hold on to it anyway. So in Retold, we're actually going beyond what the original game does. We're adding new features. One of them is you get rechargeable god powers now. So you will be able to do it more than once, don't need to just save it anymore. So use it strategically.
Strategically, that's not happening. I'm using it as often as I can, and we know that.
Which you can do too.
Now, on the Avowed side, especially when you already have a setting that you're putting this in, how do you convey that power fantasy, especially for players that might not have necessarily gotten a chance to play a Pillars of Eternity?
Il faut que Xbox ait 3 temps de communication, Gamescom, Tokyo Game Show, Game Award, et début 2025 le Dev Direct. Donc, une nouvelle manette a le temps d'être annoncée. Elle a le temps. Elle a le temps, oui.
What's the fantasy of the character that the player wants to build in the world? And,
après, juste, vous remarquerez que les temps de communication, Xbox s'en fout, hein, parce que juin, là, en un mois, ils ont fait une conférence, un panel et 5 vidéos de 30 minutes sur des jeux spécifiques. Les mecs font des confs quand ils veulent, en fait. Et ils ont déjà fait donc développeurs direct et 2 autres conférences, je crois, en ce début d'année. Alors, c'est pas des game showcase de fou, mais ça reste des temps de communication. Ils sont vachement réguliers, je trouve, quand même, de plus en plus.
Present a player with interesting problems to solve, interesting challenges to overcome, and then, you know, a unique tool set of abilities to tackle those.
Par contre, Rico, je te rejoins, effectivement, il n'y a pas de date, ça me saoule aussi. J'espère qu'ils vont... De toute façon, ils seront obligés d'en balancer à la Gamescom ou là, d'ici peu, en fait. S'ils l'ont pas fait, c'est qu'ils sont pas totalement sûrs. J'espère qu'ils ont persisté dans 2024. Normalement, ça devrait le faire. Je croise les doigts. J'espère pour eux.
We'll get a little personal for both of y'all. I would love to know if you have a personal play style. For you, I want to see what Pantheon you rock with. For you, I want to know if you have a personal play style. And does that impact how you develop the games that you do? I'm going to go play style first. Think about your Pantheon. Give me a second.
I'll say I've gone back and forth over the course of the game. You know, every time the gameplay team comes out with new abilities, they've tuned a new set of weapons. It's like, ooh, I love pistols, but now I loved wands. But some really standby favorites for me on Avowed have been Charge, which is just a really satisfying, like, puts you right into the fray. You, get right into an enemy's face, kind of knock them back a little bit. And then I love dual wielding pistols. They feel so good. And if you get a good rhythm going, you shoot one, you shoot the other, you're reloading the first one, and you can just like Yosemite Sam your way through.
La Gamescom, c'est du 21 août au 25 août. Xbox est là-bas et aura le plus grand stand de son histoire. Hein. Et je vais pas faire le mec, mais on a commencé à recevoir des mails d'Xbox qui nous disent « Vous serez là-bas ?» Donc, je pense qu'il y aura des choses intéressantes.
How does that impact some of the ways you think about development?
I used to be the classic Greek guy, so like to play those,
Classic.
right? That's classic, right? You have to go with
gotta,
this,
you gotta.
right? But lately, especially during development of this game, like, cause each Parthians, you have different way to gain favors from the gods, like, and that is how you get charged with the, so that you get to use the god powers. So for nowadays, I play the Norse. Because the way they get the power is much more interesting to me. You basically, the more you battle, the more damage you do, the more the god favors you. So it sounds awesome, right? So like the more I do what I already want to do, the more power I get. So it's like a great loop.
Pour répondre à la question, j'ai joué à Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, ouais. J'ai sorti ma vidéo il y a une semaine, à peu près. J'ai joué 30 minutes. 40 minutes.
There's never like the only one answer for this, right? So like everyone say that their Parthians is the best, and like honestly, we will try to mix it up sometimes. Just like know your enemies as well, right? So that is good.
You're not wrong. You
Yep,
know
but-
exactly how to smite the people you're
Yeah.
Les gars, vous entendez pas, mais là, actuellement, je suis au bureau. Il y a tout le monde qui est en train de regarder le match, là. J'entends des voix qui parlent et tout. Je sais pas du tout ce qui se passe. Je sais pas s'il y a eu un but ou quoi. S'il vous plaît, dites-moi dans le chat si la France s'en sort bien.
gotta play as each Pantheon, see
Yes.
exactly which one is your jam.
Right.
So I know obviously you have your own personal preferences. I think that's part of your signature. It's part of your ID as a game. But I would love to know if there are some personal inspirations for your individual teams as they were putting together these projects, especially on your side, coming back to a game 2002.
User, pour l'instant, on a fait Gears of War et Black Ops 6, et là on fait Avowed et Age of Mythology, et après il y a Assassin's Creed et Doom, ouais, je crois.
So, give you a personal story. That's a very interesting. We have an Iron Angel in our team. I've been in the team for more than a quarter century. So the person who hired me into the industry, thank you, team, is the original program manager for Age of Empires 1. So for me, I feel like I come full circle to be able to work on this franchise again. And this is fantastic. And because the franchise has been so long, we now see multi-generation people playing, like parents teaching their kids to play together. So and also we get letters from fans saying, hey, I'm now literally being a history professor because they learn like all the history. I get interested in history because of Age of Empires, Age of Mythologies, and all those games. So it's great. It's just like seeing all the people being able to get inspiration.
Absolutely
Right.
love it. Those are the heartwarming stories, especially when you get to beat on your kids in Age of Empires. Like that's what you really want.
You get that for a little.
Avowed, il sort en 2024, et pour l'instant on n'a pas de date précise. Autriche 1-0.
Then they're not going to want to play if the kids are going to eventually get good.
pas l'Autriche.
Go up against.
Moi je France-Pologne, moi.
All right, that's what we're going to do. We're going to work family angle and just co-op.
Right.
Personal touches in Avowed, especially on a thing that y'all are bringing to life. This is the first time people are going to get a chance to see some of this stuff. Are there any personal touches that people should be looking at, and are there ways that impacted how y'all developed on the game?
Yeah, so the team is it's made up of people who worked on the original Pillars of Eternity games and Deadfire, and also, Ernest, like your
Merci, les
team,
gars.
a lot of new folks as well. And so that's brought us, both some familiarity with and some faith to our roots, but also I think some fresh blood, fresh perspective, in a way to make things look and feel really new. And going to the Living Land, setting the game there, gave us all an opportunity to explore a setting that we haven't done in a game yet, but that we were all really excited about. So, one of the balances for us on the team was always about how and how much to reference old Pillars lore and characters, because we want to connect this sense of the world, but we don't want to alienate newcomers. So there are definitely some characters and a few side quests that I'm especially excited for players to discover, where if they're returning Pillars fans, they're going to recognize some characters and concepts. And if they're newcomers, they're just going to have a good time too.
Outstanding.
Trop attendre. Ouais.
When we look at evolving like a world, because again, this set in a very specific world, are there changes that you've made to the world that people that have played Pillars of Eternity will actually notice? Is there anything that you can share as far as how you've evolved where players would have been and where they're going to be coming into in Avowed?
So again, setting it in the living lands gives us the opportunity to give all of our players a blank slate. And the player character is not someone who.
Moi, le truc qui me chauffe le plus sur Avowed, perso, c'est l'écriture. Et c'est les choix. En vrai. Et pour le coup, Pillars of Eternity, je connais pas du tout. Enfin, j'en ai fait aucun. Donc du coup, j'aurais bien connaître l'univers du truc, quoi. En plus, juste pour préciser, je crois que la trame principale, elle dure 20 heures, 25 heures, il me semble. Voilà. Salut Gandolf, user 2042, c'est bon frérot, on a compris, t'aimes pas le foot. Il répète ça au moins 20 fois. Tu dis une fois, normalement, les gens, ils ont compris. Mais pourquoi répéter ça
Just on the style of gameplay and giving players that really immersive first-person experience with, you know, some very impactful, momentous combat that really puts you in the action.
Outstanding. Ernest,
yes.
Again, as we look at evolving a game from like 20 years ago, can you talk to us about some of the quality of life stuff?
Et tout le jeu est jouable à la troisième personne, totalement. Elle a dit il y a 2 semaines, une semaine. Donc c'est cool.
That Wellsatch has been approaching these titles is one of the principles we say. We want to build all these beloved titles in the way that you remember in your head. So,
ils ont parlé de Doom ou Gears of War. Ils ont parlé de Gears of War tout à l'heure. Ils vont parler de Doom après. Perfect Dark n'est pas évoqué, tout comme Fable n'est pas évoqué dans cette conférence. Salut Galad. Voilà.
When I first played it, I swear that graphics as peak. There was like, graphics will never get better than that, right? So that's exactly how I felt at the time. And then now looking back, trying to play the original and just say like, it's not exactly how I remembered it.
We watched this.
Right. So the way that we want to do it is we want to make sure that we build a game that you remembered it. So when you first play, it's like, this is exactly how I remember. The same feeling comes back. So that is very important to us. But for Retold, we're going beyond that. So there's a lot of new features we're adding.
Ce sera, je pense qu'on en verra bien plus lorsqu'on jouera au jeu. Et il y a du Shadows, il y a Marc Alexicoté d'Ubisoft qui va arriver juste après pour parler un peu du jeu. Voilà. Et c'est vrai que Clockwork Revolution a totalement disparu pour l'instant. Arrêtez-moi si je me trompe, il me semble que c'est Compulsion. Ils étaient pas là. Si, ils étaient là. Non, c'est pas Compulsion. Mince. Si. Bah du coup, ils étaient là parce qu'il y a Source of Midnight. C'est Compulsion. À moins que je confonde. Je me souviens plus. In Exile. Pardon. Non, c'est pas In Exile. Non, Clockwork Revolution, c'est pas In Exile.
Cannot wait to get my hands on them. All right, so my secret agent earpiece is telling me that we got about 5 minutes in this thing. Wow. I want to know, as per usual, what's the thing that we leaving the people with, all right? And we're going to start with a little bit of old, we're going to move to the new, all right? What are we leaving people with respect to Age of Mythology Retold?
Age of Mythology Retold is, from my standpoint, looking at it, right, there's no
excusez-moi,
other game.
Dans ma tête, j'ai tellement leur DA de Westland que je... Pardon, c'est vrai. C'est In Exile, totalement.
As well, it's just amazing. It is just like such a cool toy box that everyone actually like played your power fantasy, like you say, right? The battles is just amazing. So I hope more and more people get to try it and play it. So that would be fantastic.
I'm already telling y'all Egyptian Pantheon. I'm curious about where I'm going. Egyptian Pantheon. See, my mans know what I'm talking about. Carrie, any final thoughts for the folks?
So I'm really excited for players to discover the world of Avowed. Our design and our art teams have put so much love into the living lands, into creating an interesting space for y'all to explore. You're going to have a great time with it, and the abilities that you're going to get to explore are coming along so well.
On avait un
super
petit
fun,
peu
super
de
impactful.
gameplay, troisième personne. Il y a un petit truc.
Discover this world for themselves and define their role in it.
I got a couple of spiders that got to get taken care of. I want to thank both of y'all for being here. Can we give them one more round of applause, please? Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Please.
Next. Avowed.
So, games have been changing just a smidge since the last time Doom did things and stuff. And same thing with Assassin's Creed as well. So it is going to be incredibly fun to talk about some of the ways these games have changed, especially with respect to how technology can impact your franchise. And so, You don't want to hear me yet because I don't know anything about Doom or Assassin's Creed, but the next two people coming to the stage do. I would love for you to welcome from id Software game director Hugo Martin and VP and executive producer from Ubisoft, Mark Alexis Cote, to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows and Doom, The Dark Ages.
Dernière partie de la conférence, Doom, The Dark Ages et Assassin's Creed Shadows.
I'm sitting in my chair, and he straps on that shield, and I'm like, all right, so shield and a shotgun, that's what my future looks like. This is happening. It is outstanding to be able to look at both of these franchises, especially because I know I'm rooftopping, and then suddenly I'm this gigantic samurai that's a thing that's happening. Give me a moment. We're getting there because I would love to talk about how we're using tech to especially talk about detail. Both of these incredibly detailed franchises. And for both of them, that immersion in the world, I know we just talked about world building. But
il a pas un petit côté Ben Affleck, le mec de id Software, hein? Je trouve. Hein?
Plays a part in that. I'm gonna actually start on the Doom side of the house on this one, but I would love to know how you're communicating a lot of that detail. We got a chance to see some of it, but please share a little bit about how you're letting players know that this world is for them.
Yeah, I mean, the tech is really allowing us to do just some of the biggest spaces, the biggest AI, the feedback from the weapons, making the weapons feel like the most powerful you've ever held, you know, in a Doom game, like that Skull Crusher you saw in the teaser. It is called the Skull Crusher because it crushes skulls.
So. One of my friends literally texted me during the show, like,
that's right.
I want to put skulls in my gun. Yes, me too. That's happening.
Yeah. And, you know, it's we have more demons than we ever have. There's a shot there where he's turning the corner and he's killing so many of them. So using that spread shotgun and doing all that damage and all the gore bits coming off, the feedback that you could achieve now in games, it's just incredible. It's so exciting to be able to provide that for the players.
Oh, that's going to be outstanding. And AC Shadows, please let us know how that detail is going to impact, especially how you engage for a lot of it. I know you've talked about the ways that the things that are being communicated to the player will help you decide how to engage in combat. I would love to hear about some of that.
I'd say that for us at Ubisoft and on the Assassin's Creed team, this attention to detail, or this what I would call the spirit of innovation, has always been with us ever since the beginning of the franchise in 2007, when we created probably what was one of the first open world games. And everything that we've done ever since has been to try to improve the immersion of people in our universe, whether it's with the super detailed crowd life and interactions that I was just discussing with Hugo before coming on stage, how you can walk around in our worlds and just observe it. And it creates a sense of belonging to that place. On Shadows, we're trying to push that further. With I don't know if that showed in the trailer, but I would say the main idea or the main innovation this time around is to push dynamism. So you have dynamic weather, dynamic seasons, dynamic environments that you can break by just like, and you saw that with Yasuke, like with just like breaking walls. You saw now Wei turning on lights. You'll see more of that tomorrow, so that she can really push the stealth gameplay.
I enjoyed just how much in just the detail that you're able to create two very distinctive characters and just what players are seeing. But like I said, obviously that'll impact like gameplay style, the decisions that players are making. How does that impact how they actually play in the world? Are there things that a player might do or not do based on what the world is giving them at the time?
That's a good question, Ron. And I'd say the detail needs to serve gameplay. And the more details that you have, like my approach to it is the fact that like the more possibilities you add, the more the players can express themselves. So in Shadows, when you might revisit a place in winter or in summer. So you're there in summer, it's lush, there's tons of places to hide. You can go prone in the tall grass, and enemies won't see you coming. But then you go back, and it's winter, right? So the snow is crunchy. So as you walk around, enemies can see you, they can hear you. So you need to take a different approach.
C'est un truc que je vous disais dans l'exclu qu'on avait eu. En gros, la météo, vraiment, il y avait un autre exemple qu'il m'avait donné. Quand tu cours sur les toits en pleine nuit, dans un camp, la neige peut tomber du toit et alerter les ennemis autour de toi.
could stab them from behind. So all that was fun. So that's where the magic happens. I'd say it's like the more detail you add, the more it's integrated into the gameplay, the more possibilities for players.
It really does. It gives you such a range of things that you're able to do, and such a range of ways to approach, which I think is like principle to Assassin's Creed, is being able to look at a situation and say, guns blazing, I got this.
Yeah,
or,
choices.
yeah, a little sneaky, stinky, shanky. All right, so the key question here is, am I still able to rip out spines? That's really what.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I kid. How does that level of detail, what's that feedback on player? I know as I'm watching the trailer, every trigger pull, you feel that sucker. You know, whoa, I hit something.
Right.
How do you convey all of that, and what does that allow the player to do as they're mid-game?
You know, if it's
pour te répondre, non, tu peux pas glisser du toit. Enfin, moi, on m'a pas dit ça, du coup. Ça aurait été bien.
And so, we're really just like expand the arsenal. We talked a lot about weapons.
Après, par contre, tu vois, je trouve que faire un personnage de jeu vidéo qui glisse à cause de la neige ou qui dérape, qui tombe, je trouve que c'est pas si simple que ça en réalité. Vous voyez ce que je veux dire?
You know, the good guys are losing and you're the nuclear option, you know, and putting you in that driver's seat. So you're going to say all that stuff. It sounds great. Well, you need the tech to support that. So you got to kill, like I said, more demons than you ever have before. I think the number of AI on screen is, I don't even think there's a limit at this point. It's crazy. I keep waiting to hear no from the programmers and they never say it this time around.
Asking them.
Yeah. Big shout out to our team, you know, Billy and everyone. Evan back at home, because it's really just been an incredible dev cycle. It feels like tech-wise, across the board, you know, we've been empowered to make our best game, and kind of the last 10 years, the last two rebooted Doom games are like a build-up to this, you know. We had certainly limitations in the past, and they just doesn't really feel like they're there right now. A lot of work went into that, it sounds, you know, obviously. You know, each game you try to build on the success of the last one, learn some lessons. So it's been an incredible.
Après, ils ont une bonne base, hein, parce que Doom de 2016 et Doom Eternal, c'est des bons jeux. Hein. Ils ont de quoi faire. Hein. Salut. Pour ceux qui arrivent à la fin, c'est bientôt la fin. Calmez-vous. Tout va bien. Ah ouais, dans Mafia 2 ? Putain, Mafia 2, faut vraiment que je le fasse. Hein. Tout le monde me dit que c'était une dinguerie.
Like as you're going into like new setting, new abilities, how did you look at the characterization of who the players actually get to be?
You know, I don't think we couldn't go higher in the air than Doom Eternal. I mean, that was a great experience, but we want each game to stand on its own. You know, every game studio feels this way. You have to innovate, otherwise you're not going to capture players' interests, but you still have to stay on brand, so you have to thread that needle. So it was kind of like if you were an F-22 fighter jet in Doom Eternal. This time around, I think I wanted you to feel like a monster truck. I'm sorry, an Abrams tank. Yeah, and then I say monster because to the fans, I said once, you know, if you're a Ferrari in Eternal, you're like a monster truck in Dark Ages. Mixing up my analogies there, but and you know, so that means more powerful. You know, and grounded, I think.
J'ai hâte de le faire.
You know, the combat system.
J'ai hâte de trucider des gens là.
I think with Dark Ages, you're going to find what appears to
Ça
be
what
feels like a reimagined combat system. But for longtime fans of the series, people who played the original Doom, you'll see it's really a return to form. You know, whereas we're making strafing aim viable again. You're weaving between projectiles, just like you did in the original Doom, and to deliver that super shotgun blast to the chest.
I also enjoyed just the idea of just the sturdiness of your character, using that shield to be able to. I'm rooted
the shield
here.
saw. So we have the skull crusher because it crushes skulls.
Alors,
we have the
je vais
shield
te dire un truc, Jaguar. Je me suis fait exactement la même réflexion que toi. Je me suis dit, la série S derrière, elle me semble grosse, mais j'ai réalisé après que c'était le grille-pain. Voilà, parce qu'il y a eu un grille-pain, en fait, série S. Donc c'est très certainement le grille-pain. Voilà.
Right on the money, because that's exactly what those things are.
Exactly.
I actually want to lean a little bit over to the story side of Assassin's Creed. I know we could talk about characters all day long. If you think I'm not excited about being Yasuke, you were wrong. But the fact is, this is one of the settings and stories that people have asked for a long time. I'm people. I have asked for this for a long time. What are some of the considerations that y'all have when putting together a story, especially with a setting as the one it is in?
Well, I would say before choosing characters, the first thing that we go to on AC is thinking about a sense of place and time. So where do we want to build the game? When do we want to set it there? And why? What do we want players to take out of that? And from all the research that we do, I would say that's where the characters and the possibilities for who the characters are comes out of this careful research that we do. And I think there's been an happy accident in the evolution of the franchise. I don't know if you remember Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
I was there.
You were there? Yeah, that's good. So it was one of the first times that we mixed the assassin with something that came from the setting, which was being a pirate. So you got the assassin pirate. And this is something that we found helped us innovate on the franchise as well, to really listen to what the setting is telling us and mix that with our assassin archetype. So in the case of Shadows, that's where you get Yasuke and Naoe that are shinobi and samurai. And that's what the setting wanted, in a way, that we could explore it from this angle of both stealth and more kind of brutal combat. So
yeah, you harken back to Black Flag, definitely one of my favorite Assassin's Creed.
C'est un des meilleurs Assassin's Creed jamais sorti, Black Flag. Hein.
Not quite be an assassin, but not quite be a pirate, having the best of both worlds was an outstanding feature. And I think you got a taste of that in AC3, as Connor being able to have some of the revolution.
Mais déjà, oui, effectivement, à la base, AC3, c'était pas vraiment juste un assassin, c'était quand même un guerrier mohawk à la base aussi. Hein.
Through the two distinct characters and having that also reflect a player's play style. Some days I do want to sneak up on you, and other days I would love to just come at you sideways with a gigantic sword. I'm going to be able to do that.
That's pretty much how I played it. So,
we're kindred spirits. I love it. All right, so we've already talked about the community response just a tad, but I know that people have been crazy invested in both of these games. I would love to know if that's impacted where you decide to explore as far as innovation and what have you goes.
Oh, absolutely. So I get community reports like every week of like everything that's been said about Assassin's Creed, what people care about, what are they worried about, of where we could go.
Alors par contre les rapports hebdomadaires, j'étais pas au courant.
We run a big survey to ask people where they want us to go, right? Next in the franchise. And I'd say that Japan has been in the top 3 for our fans for the last, you voted for it. Okay, that's you making that much noise. But like for the last 15 years, Japan has been in the top 3. And I think now with the way, it's always a setting that we approach with reverence, in a way that we wanted everything to come together for us to be able to do it. And we felt that with the improvements that we were doing on the technology side, we could really represent Japan the way it deserved to be.
Alors moi, la question
I love that. The settings.
La question que je me posais, c'était s'il était dans le top 3 et qu'il était premier, c'était quoi les 2 autres périodes demandées par les fans, du coup? J'ai lu un gros mot. Hein.
Good reason. I'm with them. How does that impact how you approach the next chapter in Doom? The things that you considered, especially moving from a game like Eternal into Dark Ages, which looks like it's going to be a little bit of more of a return to form.
Yeah, I mean, we got big expectations to live up to. You know, we have to care as much as they do, and they care a lot. So tell it to the team all the time. You know, it's like focus on just really putting everything we got behind everything we put into the game, and just giving them something new. I think that's so important that you're innovating as much as possible. Otherwise, you know, I don't know that you're going to be able to really capture their interest. So I'm super close with all the fans. I talk to them all the time. I could shout so many of them out. I was texting with some of them right before this. They're great, and it's an awesome community. So I can't wait to. I haven't had a chance. I don't know about you, to like. We were joking because we were just having a conversation at the same time. Just look at the phones buzzing, and you're trying to look at all the stuff. But so far it seems so good. So I'm looking forward to seeing everything they have to say, good and bad. They're never afraid to tell me all the bad stuff too. So they have a lot of opinions.
You know, as long as that feedback is in a constructive manner, tell me what you want, tell me what you need. But
sometimes
there's a way to pitch that across the plate, I think.
It's constructive once in a while. That's good.
I try to say it's just passion, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
That's what it is. It's passion. And I think one of our creative directors on my team was like, look, if people don't care about your franchise, you don't have a franchise.
Oh, absolutely.
So when people care, they feel invested.
You don't want silence. That's
silence is the worst thing you hear about you.
Absolutely. Some of the most passionate people and critical are the ones who've beaten it the most, you know, absolutely.
Which is why they have a lot of those, hey, right. I know exactly what would have helped my experience.
But I mean, we're all the same way about the things we love.
It's true. It's true. All right, so I want to talk about design philosophies, like especially with a game like Doom, when you get that combat loop, there are things that you know are part and parcel with how you want to go in the game. Or are there any things that you're just like, this has to be this way as we go? I don't have to go super hard on it, but give me one of your philosophies.
At the start of every dev cycle, I play the original Doom game again, have the team play it, and just realizing that you know, we still didn't hit the mark. I mean, I think I noticed right away, like, you know, how slow those projectiles move. It just dawned on me, like, you know, and that is the maze. Like, the movement is more horizontal as you weave your way between the projectiles, you know, and every projectile mattered in the original Doom. And so that became like a core pillar, you know, the Ferrari to monster truck, heavy, more powerful, grounded, making strafe to aim, you know, a thing again in Doom is, which it is in the other two reboots for 2016 and Eternal, but you know, this time around, you know, you could really feel it. It almost creates like this three-dimensional.
J'ai vu vos suppositions pour Assassin's Creed. Moi, par contre, je fais partie des gens qui pensent qu'un Assassin's Creed de la Seconde Guerre mondiale, c'est une très mauvaise idée. Pour deux raisons. C'est trop tôt pour en parler de ce niveau-là dans Assassin's Creed. Je sais qu'il y a des gens qui vont dire il y a des jeux dans la Seconde Guerre mondiale, je sais, mais dans Assassin's Creed, c'est trop tôt pour le faire. On a vu avec la Révolution française, c'était pas si récent que ça, et pourtant ça a créé des polémiques. Et l'autre élément, c'est que c'est trop récent. C'est trop récent, ça ressemblerait à un TPS shooter classique, c'est pas intéressant, je trouve. Donc c'est pour ça que moi je suis pas du tout pour la Seconde Guerre mondiale à titre personnel. Voilà. Mais les autres périodes, oui, pourquoi pas.
You have some melee weapons as you kind of combo those attacks against these enemies, and you could parry. There's a lot of stuff.
On le voit dans Unity. Il y a une faille temporelle. Pour moi, c'est la faille qui ne marche pas. Et encore, on ne fait que fuir. Enfin, on tire à la mitrailleuse sur la Tour Eiffel. C'est la phase que j'ai le moins aimée. Ça va être compliqué. Hein. Pour moi, Seconde Guerre mondiale, c'est trop récent pour Assassin's Creed. D'autres jeux peuvent le traiter, mais...
Side of the house, especially because, again, long-standing franchises, there are some things. If there's not a hidden blade, I saw it on the trailer. Good, that's supposed to be there. What are some of your design philosophies as you're looking at this new chapter?
Well, I started on the EC about like 15 or 16 years ago, and as a designer, and one of the first things that was drilled down into me is like the Assassin's Creed gameplay experience is about parkour, fight, and stealth, right? And not any kind of stealth. At the beginning, it was very much oriented towards social stealth. And I think there was a lot of pressure and community feedback. Social stealth is something that was very difficult to understand because people were expecting to have more physical kind of stealth, not just be the blade in the crowd, which is still very essential to the Assassin's Creed experience, right? But to also have more forms of physical stealth where you could hide, you could draw enemies left and right and manipulate them a bit more.
Mais en gros, il dit qu'à la base, au début, c'était assez compliqué parce que la discrétion sociale, c'était pas compris par tous. Du coup, là, on est vachement basé sur une furtivité physique avec les gros coins, etc. La discrétion sociale, ça marche plus depuis... Le dernier à le faire vraiment, c'était Unity, parce qu'il y avait une gestion de la foule. Partir de Syndicate, c'est parti en sucette. Mais bon.
Part of that innovation comes from the setting itself, which will balance the different pillars, balance the pillars differently. So, for example, in the AC Syndicate, when we had vehicles and very, very tall buildings, it had an impact on parkour, and that's why we introduced the rope launcher, for example, to get you back onto the rooftops and parkouring as much as possible.
C'était une très mauvaise idée. Je comprends par rapport au level design et la ville de Londres, c'était une mauvaise idée, j'ai pas aimé.
The modifiers on stealth, parkour, and fight, and really jazz things up.
Yo,
that sounds awesome.
That's right? Because I can talk about this thing all day, but apparently I'm not allowed to do that because people have stuff to do. And
Right.
Y'all, final thoughts for the people. You gotta send them home with something on both of these. You know what? I'm gonna start on the Assassin's Creed side. That's
Sure,
what
sure.
Doing. So tell me, what do we want to tell about the shadows for the last thing?
Well, on my side, it's like I know that we were discussing attention to detail, right? And with Hugo before, I was discussing how like just being in this world that we build can be inspirational for people, or just let them observe and learn things about the world we're in. And I was really moved recently when I'm always moved by the letters that we receive from fans. And our Ukrainian studio sent us a letter from a teenager named Ivan, who was in Kharkiv, and he had to flee to Poland and he became a refugee. But despite all he was living through, he took the time to write to us a handwritten letter explaining to us how through our games he could learn something about the world. He could build up resilience. It could change his mind and provide him with interesting lessons about the state of the world, right? So, of course, we're building entertainment first, but I think this attention to detail that we can build into our games can be inspiring, and that's something that the Assassin's Creed team worldwide takes a lot of pride in, and that we're going to keep trying to build this form of entertainment, but that you can dig through it and find things to inspire you.
Absolutely. Games are never better than when they're helping people lead better lives. That's a hill that I will die on. On the Doom side of the house, man, what are we sending the people home with? What is our final thought on that?
You know, if you're ever very frustrated, you could just take it out on the demons.
That is a thing that's happening.
It's a good stress relief. Things not going, just came from the DMV. You just want, like, you know what? I've had enough of this. So, no, it's you know, bigger. So the biggest levels we've ever made, bigger world, bigger everything. You know, the strongest guns that we've ever had, biggest bosses, biggest AI. Some of the AI in the game are huge. So darker, grittier, more sinister. I think you're seeing that in the trailer. So, but all, you know, still super fun, right? If it's not fun, it's not going in the game. So we're very excited to share more in the future.
And my other hill is that games should be fun. Y'all got them both. I love
That's
it.
right.
I want to thank both of our panelists for being here today. Thank you both.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Good seeing you.
Y'all, that is my time. I've been your host, Ron Brown. Hopefully you have enjoyed our Meet the Creators segments. We'll catch y'all at the next one. Thank you, folks.
Voilà donc pour cette petite prise de parole d'Xbox. Voilà, autour de différents éléments. Bah écoutez, c'était cool d'en savoir un peu plus et aussi d'avoir quelques détails, un peu, voilà, des petits éléments par rapport au ressenti des devs sur ces 2, 4, 6 jeux, du coup. On verra si c'est un format qui va perdurer par la suite. Pour le coup, c'est un truc qui est pas si long que ça en réalité. C'est 59 minutes, ça va. C'est pas si dégueu que ça. Ça aurait pu durer 2 heures, par exemple. Si ça durait 2 heures, j'aurais dit, bon les gars, c'est un peu plus compliqué. Mais je trouve que c'est intéressant d'avoir le point de vue des devs sur leur licence et aussi leurs ambitions et ce qu'ils projettent de faire. Donc honnêtement, moi je trouve ça cool. Grosse hype, grosse hype... du côté de certains jeux, moi j'attends quand même beaucoup, forcément Doom, Assassin's Creed, Avowed, Gears of War Day, que j'attends beaucoup. Et pareil pour Black Ops, où je suis vraiment assez curieux sur la campagne. Age of Mythology, c'est pas mon truc pour être honnête, mais je vois vraiment le truc. Et par contre, les interviews croisées, effectivement, c'est vrai que c'est pas mal, parce que ça permet d'avancer rapidement et d'avoir pas mal de jeux à traiter. Donc en 1 heure, on a traité de 6 jeux avec des deep dives. Moi, je trouve ça plutôt convaincant. Et c'est tombé là, en fait. Et pour ceux qui ont raté pour MGS, oui, Xbox avait sorti une vidéo... Et de cela quelques jours, elle est sortie, n'hésitez pas à aller la voir. Et c'était pareil pour Indiana Jones, il y a eu un deep dive de 25 minutes. Donc si jamais ça vous intéresse, n'hésitez pas, j'ai fait la vidéo sur la chaîne. Voilà, c'était une prise de parole intéressante. On reviendra évidemment sur différents sujets lorsque ce sera bien évoqué par la suite. Si jamais il y a d'autres informations qui popperont, je vous en parlerai bien évidemment. Et je vous souhaite de passer un excellent match du coup pour ceux qui regardent, ou alors une excellente fin de soirée. On est plutôt 18h30, on va se calmer. Une excellente soirée pour les personnes qui sont présentes. Merci beaucoup pour ceux qui étaient dans le chat, vous faites bien plaisir. Et puis fais des bisous, je vous dis très vite. Voilà, bonne soirée. Au revoir. Guerre de sécession, ouais. Assassin's Creed, ouais. Bon. Bref, gros bisous. Allez les bleus, S'il vous plaît, mettez un but, pitié, et tu rames, on veut plus de toi. Au revoir. À bientôt. Et n'hésitez pas, oui, le nouveau numéro de Jeux vidéo magazine va débarquer. Ah, il y a le fond vert. Débarque mercredi en kiosque. Voilà, on en a parlé lundi. Bonne soirée à tous. À demain pour de nouvelles aventures, nouvelles vidéos.